Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again, midweek Wednesday. I'm still battling that upper respiratory tract infection or whatever I have, and it's kicking my butt. It's weakened. I'm in a weakened state, but we still got to get a video out, so let's see what we can conjure up for today. Let's go. Okay, first up, remember we talked about this the other day, and a lot of people were saying what they thought it was, and a lot of people say it looks like a water separator for like a race car or something like that. But this is pretty heavy, and a lot of times with race cars, they're trying to keep the weight down. I don't know. Could be that, could be a bunch, but some people are saying it looks like an old-fashioned water filter where they used to put a roll of toilet paper in. And I was thinking to myself, that would be the worst, because I always use Scott tissue. That's the toilet paper I use because I always had sewer issues. So we always use Scott. It dissolves, it turns. If you put Scott paper towel, toilet paper in here, that stuff would dissolve after a while, and you'd have tons of that broken up toilet paper in your system. I don't know how the heck that would work. I mean, you must have a special kind, because filters aren't made to dissolve. Toilet paper is. So I always wondered how those filters did. Anyway, so we're still figuring out what this is. But good news, a couple people found out exactly what this is. This is that pulley I was saying, kind of looks almost homemade, but we found out what it is. It's from a lug-all. That's the name, the brand. And it's a come-along. Even Mike, the mechanic, he small engine mechanic, he right away, he said, yeah, that's, and, you know, he knew right where it was. But a couple people knew the actual brand, too, lug-all. And this is the return pulley that goes on a come-along. Makes total sense now. I know I've seen it somewhere. So that's what that is. Okay, now for today's episode, the last time I was down at the Long Island Tool Meet, my good buddy, Bruce Grattan. Bruce is a great guy. Every time he comes, he brings a box of stuff. He watches the videos, and I start talking about certain things, and he throws something in a box. He's got a ton of great stuff. And look at the great stuff he brought today. I'm just going to go through some of this quickly and clean it up as I see it. Brought a bunch of bulbs, a couple of great stuff. And I thought it's, for me, I find it interesting, especially this electrical stuff. Let's get into it, and I'll show you as we'll clean it up as we go. The first thing we're going to talk about that Bruce gave us a couple pulleys. We were talking about pulleys last week. Sent over this one real quick. But this here, this had me beside myself. You see this here? This is called Ronston. They are a pulley manufacturer mostly for sailboats, things like that. Look how small this thing is, okay? And look what it is. It's made of like a nylon. You can see here's the number. It's called a Kite Block. This is called a sheave, the inside that spins, and that's white. You see, white sheave. Now look at this is working load and breaking load. Look at the numbers on here. You mean to tell me that this thing has a 660-pound breaking load? Like would you trust this thing with 660 pounds? It's made in Australia. Shout out to my buddy Stuart and Lee from Australia. Look at that. But really, would you trust this little pulley with that kind of weight? But that's what the breaking load is. And it has a working load of about 330 pounds or 150 kilograms. Isn't that something? And now this is something I thought would be a little bit heavier duty, but these things apparently are super strong. And this is a normal. This is a lot of times they would use, again, called a Kite Block. What do you say? Do a quick cleanup real quick. Be back in 3, 2, 1. And we're done. What do you think of that, huh? Came out nice. All the rust is gone. Here you can see how nicely, hear that? Nicely, that smooths in there. A little 50-50 rub down. There we go. So this one's not, I would believe this one's good for 660 pounds. What do you think about it? You think this thing would hold that kind of weight? Moving on, Bruce gave me this. This is the breast attachment for our breast drills, and we have a bunch of them to work on, so that'll come in handy. Then he gave me a couple of these plate sockets here. And you can see here, this one is porcelain, and this one here is plastic. And, you know, the plastic does usually break, and again, they get with the heat. But let's, and let me show you how nicely, look at that. Let me show you how nicely the porcelain cleans up and why these are so great and you can use them forever. Now we're calling these ones done. You can see here the porcelain always cleans up nice, doesn't it? And even took the Dremel and did the contact in there, did the inside here. Just a beautiful fixture here. And the plastic one, it's still usable, and I'll tell you why. You see why this is broken here? Well, let me show you. What they did was they hooked up 2 wires, and they probably had it on a base like this, and they had to have the wires running out instead of drilling through the board. They could have done this a little neater, so let's us do it a little neater. Let's curve this out so it don't look like it was broken with the pliers. Okay, there we go. So you could see if you were running some kind of display on a board or something, you can see this looks much neater now, right? You could run the cord going in there like that on top of a board and staple it down. So this is still very usable. So is this. How great is that? Next up, Bruce also gave me an array of sockets. This one here, these are old hanging. They also used to use these for testers years ago, a lot of old electricians. This was a rubberized, you could see it was just a socket that was coated here. This is a regular socket you might find for a lot of lamps that has the standard electric screw-in replacement. This one here is the outdoor type. You can see here, outdoor doesn't look like it was ever used. You just put this into the box, into your handy box. And now these 3 here are just absolutely beautiful. Let me show you. This is an old-timey Bakelite, and you can see it's even written here. It says Bakelite on there. Can you see that? Bakelite. And you can see how this works. This opens up like this, and the plug comes out. It's a 2-piece affair here. You see this spins on the inside, and the reason it does that is so that that little protrusion could fit here where the switch is and keep that switch from rocking around too much when this is tight. Okay, and you can see this is on, off, on, off. These things worked forever. Just a beautiful switch. This thing would screw into, you could even have a lampshade that would screw onto here, a couple things. But this here, you can see this is a ceramic type or of a base. It's not plastic. It's all well made, but the only thing is with this one here is a little bit jammed. This doesn't spin, so let's just spray this inside here with a little WD-40, and we'll see if we can't free it. Okay, we had to just push that up a little bit to reseat it, but you can see now how easily this spins. We'll put this back together. WD-40 does a great job in cleaning. And there we go, 3 beautiful lamp switches. They could be new old stock. They probably are new old stock. Next up, Bruce gave me a couple of beautiful knife switches. Now, I don't know if you remember these. These were big when I was younger. I was into ham radio or CBs, and we'd be making antennas. And we would use these type of knife switches because you wanted to disconnect them when you had a long wire running out into the yard and there was a big electrical storm. You didn't want the electricity coming into your room at night and zapping you. So, you know, or when you were sleeping or you weren't there or something, you flip it off so it was safe. That's why these were very common. These were made by Leviton. You can see it's marked Leviton on here. That's a good quality switch. See that, Leviton? Good quality switch. They used to use these in homes, believe it or not, for different things. But let me just go over real quick what this is called a double pole, double throw switch. Now, you've probably seen these configurations when you go to buy a switch, whether you're buying a toggle switch or a pull switch or anything. You'll see these numbers, these letters there, SPST. What does that stand for? Well, SPST stands for single pole, single throw. And the pole is in the middle here. That's where the wire connects. You know, you would connect your wires to here. And a single pole would be if this was half. See, this is a double pole. There's 2 of them, 1, 2. Now, if there was 1, it would only be half of this, and it would work with just 1 pole. Now, if it goes both ways, that's a double throw. If it only goes this way, it's a single throw. So you can see how many configurations you could have. If we cut the switch in half and cut it over here, this would be a single pole, single throw switch. But by having it both ways, you can use it for a bunch of different configurations, changing it. You can have 1 antenna coming into here, 1 antenna over here. If you want to switch antennas, you just flip it over that way. So these were really good. They still are used today in a lot of industrial applications, especially the big ones, the Frankenstein, we call them, knife switches. But these always come in handy, and they've become quite collectible these days. So thanks, Bruce. Next up, Bruce knows I collect bulbs. He brought a whole bunch down, but these were different ones and they're unusual. And, you know, it's funny, we talk about bulbs. I was just talking to my buddy, CC Scraps, Chris. Somebody was complaining that Chris's videos weren't so sharp, whatever, and they're saying maybe invest in a new camera. Believe it or not, you don't need proper lighting will go. I've been using this. This is an iPhone. I've been using iPhone ever since that I started making videos. The key is a couple of good clamp lights. If you're not familiar with a clamp light, this is a clamp light here, okay? Put a couple over your work. Put a couple behind you or facing you when you're talking to the camera, and you'll see it'll make a world of difference. Now, the other thing you want to have is a warm type light. You don't want to have a high Kelvin light when you're filming, because that, you know, the cameras don't like it too much. Just like fluorescent lighting. They're not crazy about fluorescent lighting. But any of these, this is obviously incandescent light, okay? And you can see that this light would be a nice warm light to have on you. This one here, an unusual bulb. I don't have one of these type of, I have the beehive style, but not this type. But you can see here, this is 5,000 Kelvin, which is a very bright bulb, like a bluish light. Let's plug this in, see if it works. Okay, we have it screwed in. Let's flip the switch. Oh, there we go. You see it, it's working. And it's a bluish light. Can you see the difference? It's interesting. It's good for certain applications. Some people actually like this light, but you can see that it's almost like a white. It turns white on screen. I don't know if you're picking that up or not. And so that's very interesting. I love the design of this bulb. It's kind of almost like a mushroom style compared to the other ones I have, like the one that's in this clamp light here. You can see the difference in the Kelvin. That one's a warm one. You can see it looks more yellowish, and that's also a standard type of fluorescent coil bulb. So isn't that awesome? Next up, we have a doorbell. This is a regular house doorbell. House doorbells here in the United States usually work from between about 16 and 24 volts AC. They have a little transformer, and it'll send that's low voltage, so you don't get shocked or anything. But the funny thing about this is we used to have one, same exact one in the house, and every time this rang, it would you jump. You know, so a lot of times back in the 70s, everybody was going to a more pleasant doorbell chime that was more pleasing to hear, instead of this buzzing or ringing that would let somebody know you're at your door. To open this up, it's very simple. You just squeeze the top. You see there's a little detent. Squeeze that down, bend it up a little bit, and there's your little coils here. And you hook this up here. One goes to the ground, will go here. This would be your hot, would go here from your line, your AC. And when that made contact through a doorbell, this would ring. These things last forever. Very cool. Up is this cool ThermoDisc Switch. Thermo switch. You can adjust the temperature by turning that screw to one of these Fahrenheit temperatures. Here is your, you would have the hot coming in. It would break the hot more or less. So your hot would come in, your hot would go out, and this would act as a switch. And there's your little, that thing, when it would heat up, it would make contact. I don't know if this is normally open or normally closed. We'd have to check that out, but isn't that cool? It's adjustable. Up is this awesome burner control switch. You know, when you put your thermostat on, your thermostat is basically a switch, but it sends a low current down here to these two terminals through the thermostat, and then this activates a little kind of a magnet, and this is a relay, and you can see how it makes a contact, and then that will allow 110 or 115 volts to go to your burner and run your burner. So it's basically like a switch, a thermal switch. Very cool. And you can see the way these are made. They still make the same one, not the same exact model, but they still make the same style today that does the same job. But this thing was just made so well. Could be all rebuilt. Last up, you might remember a couple months ago, I bought the same exact switch on eBay. And when I got it, the switch was broken. This part here, it wasn't the shipper's fault. I don't know what happened, but this little piece broke off here that switches back and forth, and I fixed it, and the case had gray paint on it, right? This one's got black paint on it, and remember the gray paint was kind of rusted through, and I went and polished it. But this one here is a beautiful switch. It's got extra fuses in here, you could see. So let's just clean this up real quick and give it a test run. Okay, we cleaned the switch up. We lubricated with some dielectric grease. You can see, works very nice. And then you test it. Now we have no fuses in here, so you have to test it from the center part of the fuse to the top. We have it on ohms. You can see right now this is on. So we'll test it here. Contact here. Contact. Throw the switch. Nothing. So this works good. And always amazes me how nice these were made. Why would you take something like this out of service? What are you going to replace it with? There's nothing you can replace it with that's better than this. I mean, this is perfection. I'm calling this project done. I don't know who repainted this. They did a nice job. First of all, they taped off the nameplate so that you know, you can still see the nameplate. They did a nice job on that, you know, as far as, and it's black, you know, originally it was this color, gray, but, so I compounded it, you know, I left it compounded. I think the, looks pretty nice, right? Inside, cleaned everything inside. The switch is all, like I said, lubricated, switched up. What a beautiful switch. I love these things, so that one's in the can. Okay, so in closing, special thanks to Bruce Grattan for all those fantastic items. What a great bunch of stuff there. I love playing with stuff like that, and I'm looking forward to getting better and getting down here and doing some real projects, you know, but I'm still weak, believe it or not. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Take care now. Bye-bye.